I pulled into Greenwood Heights just as the sun slipped behind the rooftops, turning the cul-de-sac gold in that soft, misleading way that makes everything look peaceful. My parents' house glowed from the inside, warm lights, silhouettes moving back and forth, but the closer I walked toward the front door, the more wrong it all felt. Tonight was supposed to be my 30th birthday celebration. They had promised me. They'd picked the date, set the time, even told me to dress nicely because this year matters. And yet when I stepped onto the porch carrying the custom cake I ordered with my own money, I heard laughter, bright, flirtatious, absolutely not meant for me. I opened the door and froze. The dining room was set like a scene from a lifestyle magazine. Candles, crystal stemware, silver chargers, a centerpiece of white hydrangeas and blush roses. All of it looked expensive. All of it looked intentional. All of it looked like it belonged to someone else. Then Mia strutted out of the kitchen in a silk champagne dress, her hair in glamorous waves, cheeks dusted in gold highlighter. My mother followed her, adjusting her necklace, wearing an evening dress I'd never seen. "Rachel," she said, startled. "What are you doing here?" My father didn't even look ashamed. "Sweetheart, we're hosting dinner for Ethan's family tonight," he said in a tone he reserved for trivial inconveniences. "Your sister has an important opportunity." I looked down at the cake box in my hands, my name piped across the top in pale blue icing. A stupid, humiliating contrast to the table behind them. Something cold curled inside my chest as my father added, "You're an adult now. Birthdays at your age aren't a big deal anymore." The words slid past me like ice water, and every candle in that room suddenly felt like a spotlight. If they had just erased my birthday without a second thought, they had no idea what I still had control over. I stood in the entryway, trying to piece together the scene. My mother's heels clicked across the floor as she fussed over the table settings, adjusting napkins. I recognized blue and silver linen napkins I had bought for my birthday dinner. A matching garland of eucalyptus I'd purchased last week was now stretched across the center of the table. My decorations, my colors, my celebration stripped, gutted, repurposed for my sister's date. "You should have texted first," my mother said, barely glancing at me. "We needed the house tonight. Mia's meeting Ethan's parents. It's a big moment." Mia smirked the way she had since high school, like she'd been handed some private script the rest of us had to follow. "Don't be weird about it, Rach," she said. "It's not like you can't celebrate another day." I didn't trust myself to speak. My father stepped toward me, lowering his voice as if the humiliation would sting less if whispered. "Take the cake home. We'll do something small next week. We can't reschedule this dinner." The casual dismissal carved through me sharper than any shout could. Mia's opportunity mattered. Their image mattered. I didn't. Not enough to keep a promise. Not enough to deserve my own night. I stared at the room again, at the flowers I hadn't bought, at the wine bottles with gold foil tops, Chianti Reserva, imported at least $70 a bottle. My gaze dropped to the box of hydrangeas on the counter and the receipt pinned under a magnet, Grand Floral Company, $520. Charged to the household card. The household card I set up. The household card meant for bills and necessities. My heart thudded once hard. "We'll talk later," my father said already, brushing past me to greet someone at the door. I stepped outside before the rage could spill past my teeth. The cold air slapped me back into myself. I walked to my car, opened the driver's side door, and sat down, the cake still on my lap like some cruel joke. My hands shook as I unlocked my phone. If they'd used the household card for flowers, what else had they used it for? I opened the bank app, the one I had set up last year when I refinanced their mortgage, and organized their auto-pay schedule. They never bothered to change the login. They never thought I would need to. The screen loaded slowly, almost hesitantly, and when it did, I felt the floor drop. 3 charges in the last 48 hours. Lakeside Terrace, $380. Winecliff Cellars, $760. Grand Floral Company, $520. My breath caught in my throat. These weren't necessities. These weren't household expenses. These were luxuries, luxuries meant to put on a show for Ethan's wealthy family, luxuries they paid for with funds meant to keep their mortgage alive. For a moment I sat completely still, staring at the glowing numbers like they belonged to someone else's disaster. But then another notification blinked at the bottom, warning balance critically low. Mortgage auto pay scheduled in 3 days. I felt it like a punch to the ribs. They were burning through money they didn't have, risking a late payment, all to impress the parents of a man Mia had known for 6 weeks. I opened the door again, needing air. The neighborhood was quiet except for the distant hum of sprinklers. I leaned against the car and let my eyes close. My 30th birthday, my milestone, had been scrubbed clean from my parents' house, without remorse, without hesitation. For Mia. Always for Mia. Memories rose like bitter smoke. My 17th birthday canceled so Mia could go to a last-minute pageant rehearsal. My 20th birthday overshadowed by her breakup. Every holiday, every milestone, every event, absorbing into the gravitational pull of my sister's needs. Tonight wasn't new. It was just the final proof that nothing would ever change. Unless I changed something myself. I climbed back into the car and stared at the screen again. That warning, the dipping balance, the purchases stacked like reckless confetti. A quiet, sharp thought formed in the back of my mind. They depended on that auto-pay system. They depended on me keeping their finances steady. They assumed I always would. I swallowed hard and opened the documents folder inside the portal, something I rarely checked because my parents never uploaded anything there. Except now, bold at the top, was a new file: Hudson, loan, agreement, PDF. My fingers tingled. I tapped it. A pop-up appeared: restricted file. Authentication required from secondary signer. And listed beneath it in small gray text was my name. Secondary signer Rachel M. Hudson. My pulse hammered in my ears. A loan I never heard of. A document I never signed. A name they had no right to use. I stared at the message, my thumb hovering over the screen, and felt the anger settle, not like a storm this time, but like steel cooling into shape. If they wanted to erase my birthday, if they wanted to use my money, my decorations, my time, fine. But they were about to learn what happened when the person they'd always taken for granted finally stopped being the one holding everything up. The mortgage payment wasn't the only thing I could cancel. I drove home with the radio off, the only sound the tight rhythm of my own breathing. The cake box sat on the passenger seat, like a reminder of everything I should have had tonight. Friends gathered in my parents' dining room, candles, flickering laughter meant for me. Instead, my sister was inside that house wearing a silk dress bought with money from an account I managed. Tomorrow, for the first time in years, the mortgage payment would go through without enough funds behind it. They'd built their entire image on a foundation I held together, and now that foundation was cracking. When I reached my apartment, the quiet was almost too much. I set the cake on my kitchen counter, but I didn't open it. I didn't want sweetness. I wanted clarity. My phone buzzed with a text from Mia. Of course, she was bold enough to message me right after stepping over my birthday like a doormat. Sorry again about tonight. Things happen. Love you. The words felt like someone patting a child on the head. I put the phone down without answering. I sat at my dining table, opened my laptop, and logged into the Hudson household portal again. The first thing I saw was the bright orange alert on the homepage: balance insufficient for upcoming autopay. In the past, I would have been frantic, calculating transfers, adjusting due dates, trying to fix what they broke. Tonight, I just stared. Then I clicked the restricted loan document again. The system prompted me to verify my signature to continue. My authentic signature, the one on file in the mortgage refinance records I'd submitted myself last year. I held my breath as the PDF opened. There it was. A $48,000 personal loan from Timberline Premier Lending, one of the harshest high-interest lenders in Colorado. Payments scheduled for the next 5 years. And at the bottom, typed neatly in the signature field next to my mother's frantic swooping handwriting, my own name. Except it wasn't mine. The slant was wrong. The spacing was wrong. The final stroke on the N was too sharp. They hadn't even copied it well. My throat closed. I felt heat flare through my chest, a sharp burning disbelief that made me stand up from my chair. I paced the apartment until the shock thinned into something colder. They had forged my name. They had taken my trust, my labor, my financial knowledge, and used it against me. My fingers trembled as I called the only person I trusted with this, Sophie. She picked up on the second ring. "Hey, how's the birthday party? Did they surprise you? Did they?" "No," I said. My voice cracked. "I need legal advice." The cheer drained instantly from her tone. "Rachel, what happened?" "My parents used my name for a loan. They forged my signature. They took out almost $50,000. There was a beat of stunned silence. "Rachel," she finally breathed, "that's identity theft." I sank into my couch and covered my eyes. "I know." "Okay, listen to me." Her voice shifted into her paralegal tone, focused, crisp, protective. "You need to download everything right now. Every loan file, every bank transaction, every email notification. Anything that proves you didn't authorize it. They're going to freak out if I confront them." "You don't confront them yet. You protect yourself first." She paused. "Rachel, this is criminal. If that lender gets suspicious, they'll come after whoever's name is on the loan. Meaning you." I pressed my hand to my forehead. "What do I do?" "You disavow the signature. Immediately. You file a written statement saying it wasn't you. That creates a record. That protects your credit." And my parent Sophie hesitated. "If you file an official identity theft report, they'll be investigated. Possibly charged." I let my head fall back against the couch. My throat tightened at the thought. As furious as I was, I didn't want to see my parents in a courtroom. I didn't want Mia watching our mother get fingerprinted. I didn't want headlines. I wanted them to understand what they'd done. I wanted them to feel the weight of it, not be destroyed by it. "I can't go that far," I whispered. "Then do everything else," Sophie said. "Document everything. Notify the lender. And for the love of God, get yourself out of those bank accounts." That part I could do. When I hung up, I opened the household account dashboard again. My cursor hovered over my user role, primary financial manager. The person responsible for ensuring all payments processed. The person responsible for saving the house. The person expected to fix everything always. I clicked Remove Access. The system asked, "Are you sure?" For 30 years, my answer would have been no. Tonight, it was yes. Once the confirmation flashed across the screen, I moved through the rest of the settings with steady hands, removing myself from auto-pay authorizations, deleting my saved contacts, downloading months of transaction logs, screenshotting every warning email they'd ignored. My parents had built a fantasy life of curated dinner parties and borrowed prestige, and they used my stability, my work, my money, my signature to fund it. No more. By the time I finished, it was past midnight. I leaned back in my chair, drained but strangely lighter. The air in my apartment felt different, as if I'd finally cracked open a window in a room that had been suffocating for years. Then, just as I was about to log off, I saw something I had missed earlier, a shared folder titled Hudson Priorities. I clicked it. There in a simple Excel spreadsheet was a list of goals, household expenses, repairs, savings, and another section labeled Mia's wardrobe. Priority dining out with Ethan, priority spa package, priority weekend getaway, priority mortgage payment, pending electric bill, pending Rachel will understand. My jaw clenched, my hand curled around my mouse. Rachel will understand. 3 words that summed up my entire childhood, my entire role, my entire erasure. My phone buzzed. A text from my mother. "Need to postpone tomorrow brunch. Very busy preparing for tonight. Hope you understand." I stared at the screen so long the text blurred. Hope you understand. It didn't matter if I was 10, 20, or 30, they still assumed I would fold myself into whatever shape they needed. They still assumed I would swallow disappointment for the sake of Mia's future. I powered off my laptop. And that was when another notification appeared, an automated one linked to the account. Even after my permissions were removed, upcoming payment flagged autopay will fail. A slow, startling calm settled over me. Let it. Let the mortgage payment fail. Let them face the reality they'd avoided for too long. Let the consequences hit the people who created them. For once in my life, I wasn't going to be the person who rushed in to shield them. My hands stopped shaking. My breathing steadied. The cold in my chest shifted into something harder, a boundary, a line drawn deep into the ground. They had canceled my birthday without hesitation. They had forged my name without guilt. They had believed I would stay quiet. They were wrong. The next morning, I woke to a pounding in my skull and a rawness behind my ribs, the kind that comes from crying without ever letting the tears fall. Sunlight crept between my blinds in thin, accusing lines. I stared at the ceiling for a long moment before I sat up, the weight of last night settling over me like a too heavy coat. My 30th birthday, my milestone, had slipped by with no celebration, no family, no acknowledgement. Just a forged signature, a cancelled party, and an upcoming mortgage payment hanging by a thread. My phone lit up with messages, missed calls from my parents, more from Mia, a few texts from friends asking how the party had gone. I ignored them all. I needed distance. I needed clarity. I needed to breathe. I shuffled into the kitchen, poured myself a cup of coffee, and sat at the table with my laptop open again. The numbers hadn't changed overnight. Neither had the charges, the warning messages, or the unsecured loan in my name. But something inside me had shifted. The panic was fading. What was left was resolve. I started with the basics, downloading every bank statement for the past 12 months, every email notification the system had ever sent, and every document my parents had uploaded into the financial portal. I opened a new folder on my desktop and labeled it Evidence. The word made my stomach twist, but I didn't delete it. Next, I opened the household calendar, a digital timeline my mother used obsessively. Red-marked dinner reservations, spa days for Mia, hair appointments, outings with Ethan's family. Nothing for me, not a single birthday reminder, not even a note about the dinner they'd canceled in my name. It was as if I didn't exist inside the walls of their life unless they needed something. At 10 o'clock, the phone rang. Not my cell, my work phone. The number on the caller ID was my parents'. They were using a landline. I hesitated, then picked up. "Rachel," my father said. His voice was clipped, urgent. "We need to talk." I took a breath. "Did you get my email?" "What email?" he barked. I closed my eyes. Of course. They never checked anything unless it screamed. It explains everything I said. The mortgage, the loan, the forgery. My mother's voice floated onto the line, high-pitched and panicked. "Honey, something is wrong. The mortgage company called this morning. They said the payment might not go through, and when your father tried to check the portal, it wouldn't let him in." "Did you change something?" I looked down at my coffee. "Yes," I said. I removed myself from the account. What? My father exploded. "Why would you do that?" "We rely on you to keep everything organized." The words were a slap, one I'd heard my whole life. "You rely on me to fix everything I corrected." "You're twisting this," he snapped. "This isn't about you. We're trying to make sure Mia has a good future, and you're sabotaging it over a birthday party." "A birthday party?" My voice cracked. "Is that really what you think this is about?" "What else would it be?" he demanded. My hand tightened around the edge of the table. "Try almost $50,000 borrowed in my name without my consent." Silence. Heavy, guilty silence. My mother broke first. "Rachel, sweetheart, we were desperate. The lender needed a cosigner, and we didn't want to bother you. But you had no problem forging my name. Don't say it like that, my father snapped. We didn't forge anything. We just signed for you. That's what forgery is. The loan was temporary, he insisted. Once things settled with Ethan's family, once Mia married Rich, I said flatly. My mother gasped. Don't be cruel. Cruel, I repeated. Cruel is canceling your daughter's birthday so her little sister can flirt with a wealthy family. Cruel is using my decorations and my money without asking. Cruel is risking your house while pretending everything is fine. Cruel is taking my signature and putting it on a loan that could ruin my credit and my career. We didn't think it would matter, my father muttered. Of all the excuses that could have come out of his mouth, that one hit deepest. I sat back stunned. You didn't think it would matter. We thought you'd understand, he said. You always do. A muscle in my jaw twitched. I'm done understanding, my father scoffed. Oh, don't be dramatic. But something in his tone had shifted. Not anger, not confidence, something closer to fear. Listen carefully, I said. The mortgage payment is going to fail unless you figure it out yourselves. I'm no longer responsible for your finances, and I'm not discussing this over the phone. Rachel, if you want to talk, I cut in both of you. We'll come to my apartment at 7 tonight. My mother sputtered. We have plans with Ethan's parents tonight. Cancel them, I said, savoring the symmetry. Or let them see how you treat your own daughter. Your choice. My father inhaled sharply. You can't talk to us like this. I just did. I hung up. The silence that followed was thick, not peaceful, heavy, necessary. I pushed back from the table and stood in the middle of my living room, trying to steady my breathing. My hands trembled with adrenaline, but the decision was made. I wouldn't back down. Not this time. Not after 30 years of bending, shrinking, smoothing over their choices. I sat again and opened the loan file. Carefully, methodically, I took screenshots of every page. The payment schedule, the interest rate, the forged signature. I saved everything. Then I drafted a letter notifying Timberline Premier Lending that my signature had been used without my knowledge or authorization. Sophie had warned me timing mattered. Delays would make it look like I'd known all along. When the letter was finished, I printed it, signed it, scanned it, and sent it to the lender's fraud department with every piece of supporting documentation attached. It was the first time in months, maybe years, that I chose myself. The rest of the afternoon passed in a strange quiet. I cleaned my apartment not because it was dirty, but because the motion calmed me. I threw out wilted flowers. I wiped down counters. I lit a candle that smelled like vanilla and cedar. Anything to drown out the echo of my father's words. We didn't think it would matter. At 6:30, my phone buzzed again, a message from an unknown number. We're on our way. Of course. They were using someone else's phone again, probably because I'd blocked theirs. I changed into jeans and a sweater, pulled my hair into a loose bun, and sat on the couch waiting. Every minute tightened the coil in my stomach, but I didn't back down. At exactly 7, my intercom buzzed. I walked to the door and pressed the button. Yes, my father's voice came through, rough and clipped. It's us. I buzzed them up and stepped back, my heartbeat loud in my ears. A moment later, the knock came. I opened the door, and there they were, my parents. The people whose choices had stretched me thin and bent my life into shapes that suited them. My mother's eyes were red. My father looked older, smaller. Like the reality of what they'd done finally had weight. Come in, I said, stepping aside. They walked in slowly, almost cautiously. My father scanned the room, noticing the stack of documents on the coffee table. Sit, I said. They did, and for the first time in my life, they were the ones waiting for me to speak. My father sat forward on the couch like he was preparing for a negotiation instead of a reckoning, elbows on his knees, hands clasped too tightly. My mother smoothed the crease in her skirt again and again, unable to meet my eyes. The same woman who'd smiled brightly at Ethan Carter's parents last night now looked like she'd aged 10 years. I closed the door and walked past them, not rushing, not apologizing for the silence. I wanted them to feel it, every thick second of it. I sat across from them and pulled the printed loan documents from the folder on my coffee table. When I set them down, the papers made a soft thud that echoed louder than any shout. My mother flinched. "This," I said, tapping the top page, "has my name on it." My father swallowed. "Rachel, don't I cut in?" "Not yet." I slid the document toward them. "Read it." They exchanged a helpless look, and my father lifted the paper with stiff fingers. His eyes scanned the lines: loan amount, lender, repayment schedule, and he looked away when he reached the signatures. My mother leaned in, covering her mouth with her hand. "Honey," she whispered, "you have to understand I don't have to understand anything." My mother froze. I leaned back in my chair, steady, calm, in a way I hadn't been able to access for years. "Last year, I refinanced your mortgage. I set up your online banking. I organized your auto-pay schedule. I spent hours dealing with your lender so you wouldn't lose the house. And you thanked me by forging my signature for $48,000. My father's jaw tensed. "We were going to tell you." When I asked, "Before or after the lender came after me?" "We weren't going to let that happen," he insisted. "We had a plan." "What plan?" I demanded. "To marry Mia into a wealthy family and let them fix everything." His silence told me everything I needed. I opened my laptop and turned the screen toward them, bringing up the Timberline lending portal. "Your plan is a fantasy," I said, "and a dangerous one." My mother burst into tears. "Rachel, please, we didn't do this to hurt you." "Maybe not," I said softly, "but you did hurt me." They both seemed to shrink at that. I clicked to another tab, a spreadsheet labeled Hudson Priorities, the one they never thought I'd see. "Let's talk about this," I said, tapping the screen where Mia's expenses were listed as priority after priority. My mother pressed trembling fingers to her lips. "That's not what it looks like." "It looks exactly like what it is," I said. "Spa packages, designer clothes, dinners, getaways paid for with money meant for your mortgage. Money that should have protected your home." My father shifted uncomfortably. "We had to support Mia. She's young, she has a future, and Ethan's family." "Stop." My voice cracked with the force of it. "Just stop." The room fell silent. "You've been using the mortgage account as your personal credit card. You've been pretending you're fine while you sink deeper into debt. You've been spending money you don't have so Mia can pretend she's living a life she hasn't earned." My father looked offended for a split second, then guilty. I pointed to the screen again. "You're 2 months behind on utilities. You're 1 late payment away from foreclosure review. And you never once thought to tell me any of this." My mother whispered, "We thought we could fix it before you found out." "You can't fix anything if you keep lying." The words hit them harder than I expected. My father sagged, shoulders dropping. My mother cried harder, head bowed. And then I continued quietly, "You used my name to get a loan. You forged my signature. You made me legally responsible for debt I didn't agree to. That isn't desperation. That's betrayal." For several seconds, no one moved. My father finally lifted his head. "We were scared." "So was I said. "When I saw my name on that loan. When I saw the mortgage warning. When I thought about losing everything because of choices I didn't make." He rubbed his forehead. "Rachel, we didn't think it would matter." That phrase again, the one that broke something open deep inside my chest. I stood. "It matters. All of it matters." I walked to the kitchen counter, forced my breathing to steady, then returned with the binder I'd organized earlier. I set it on the coffee table, the thick stack of documents landing like a verdict. "This," I said, opening the binder, "is everything you've ignored. Late notices. Missed payments. Transaction logs. Statement after statement. Every warning the bank sent." My mother stared at the pages as if they were written in a language she'd never seen. "You kept spending," I said. "You kept pretending. And you kept expecting me to fix it." My father's voice was barely a whisper. "What are you going to do?" That was the moment the balance shifted. The moment they realized I wasn't here to patch things like I always had. I took a breath. I already notified Timberline that the signature wasn't mine. My mother gasped, color draining from her face. They're opening an investigation, I continued. They need a formal statement from you both. Rachel, her voice wavered. They could charge you, I finished. Yes, they could. That's why you're here, so we can figure out how to prevent that. My father buried his face in his hands. I kept going. I had to. I also removed myself from your accounts. I'm not managing your money anymore. If the mortgage fails, it won't be my fault. It won't be my problem. My mother shook her head slowly, eyes wide. We don't know how to handle all of this. Then you should have thought about that before you made me your safety net. My father looked up, jaw unsteady. What do you want us to do? The question hung in the air like a fragile promise. For starters, I said, sliding a form across the table, you're going to sign this. It's a written acknowledgement that you forged my signature. I need it for the lender's fraud file. My mother recoiled like I'd slapped her. Rachel, we can't. Yes, I said. You can. And then my father asked quietly, then you're going to sit down with a real financial counselor. You're going to stop spending on things you can't afford, and you're going to start telling the truth. My voice softened, but only barely. To me, to Mia, and to yourselves. My father reached for the paper with a trembling hand. My mother stared at me, trying to find the daughter she used to mold so easily. Why are you doing this? She whispered. I looked at her steadily. Because someone in this family has to stop pretending. I gathered the rest of the documents back into the binder and latched it shut. My pulse finally slowed, my breath steady again. They had lied. They had stolen. They had gambled with my future. But for the first time, they were hearing me. I stood quietly, letting the silence stretch. Tomorrow the consequences would grow sharper. But tonight, for the first time in 30 years, the truth sat in the room with us, and no one could look away. The dining room at Lakeview Terrace shimmered with soft amber light as waiters glided between tables carrying plates of seared salmon and herb-crusted lamb. Linen napkins folded like sculpture's glasses chimed gently, and every couple at every table looked like they belonged there. Except my parents. They sat stiffly beside Mia and her perfectly dressed date, Ethan Carter, trying so hard to appear effortless that it was painful to watch. My mother kept touching her pearls, my father kept straightening his tie, and Mia kept glancing at the Carter family as if waiting for them to crown her the next queen of Colorado. I wasn't there, of course. I learned about the dinner only because my phone buzzed with a real-time banking alert. Lakeside Terrace, $380. Approved. It was 8:12 p.m., the exact time I'd been scheduled to cut my birthday cake. I stared at the screen in disbelief, but before I could even process it, another notification arrived. Winecliff Cellars, $210. Pending. A bottle of wine at a restaurant. Of course, the Carter family would never know the truth that my parents' refined taste came from loans they couldn't afford and money meant for their mortgage. They would never know my parents were treating Mia's date like royalty while my own 30-year milestone was being swept under a rug. I sat on my couch, phone in hand, thinking the night couldn't get more insulting. But it did. My phone rang. Mia's face flashed on the screen. I almost didn't answer. But curiosity won. The moment I picked up, a panic-tight whisper exploded through the speaker. Rachel, thank God. Pick up. Pick up. Oh my God, you answered. I pulled the phone away from my ear. What's wrong? You need to transfer money right now, she hissed. Like right now, right now. No. What do you mean, no? Mom and Dad's card was declined. At the table, the waiter said it out loud. Carson's family heard everything. I blinked. Who is Carson? Ethan's father. Rachel, focus. I pinched the bridge of my nose. Mia, what does this have to do with me? You're the one who handles their finances. Fix it. I don't handle them anymore. It went silent on her end long enough that I thought the call dropped. Then her voice returned, sharp and incredulous. Are you kidding me? Don't pull this dramatic birthday guilt trip right now. This has nothing to do with my birthday, I said evenly. I removed myself from their accounts because they forged my signature on a loan. Mia, They committed identity theft, she scoffed. Oh my God, Rachel, stop being so over the top. You always make everything about you. I'm not transferring a dime. Rachel, they're humiliated. Carson's dad just offered to pay the bill for them like their charity. Do you understand what this means for me? There it was, not what it meant for them. Not what it meant for the truth. Not what it meant for our family. What it meant for her. Good night, Mia, I said. Rachel, don't hang up. Don't I hung up. The phone immediately rang again from a different number. I declined it. Seconds later, another call came from another number. Then a text, it's Mom. Please answer. Then Rachel, we need you. Please help. And another, this is Dad. Pick up the phone right now. I watched the screen go dark. My apartment felt too still, the air too thin. The noise on their end, chaos, embarrassment, panic echoed in my head. It was the first time in years they'd felt consequences they couldn't hide behind me. A part of me felt guilty. The lifelong habit of rescuing them tried to flare up. But deeper than that, stronger than that, something steadier held firm. They had taken my birthday. They had taken my decorations. They had taken my savings. And they had taken my signature. Tonight, for the first time, something was being taken from them, and for the first time, it wasn't my job to fix it. My phone vibrated again, this time with a message from my father written with the tense cadence of a man trying to hold on to control. Rachel, call us now. The bank said the mortgage payment didn't process. They're charging us fees. What did you do? I typed slowly. I stopped covering for you. He typed back instantly. Don't get smart with me. Come fix it. I didn't respond. Another message. Then another. Then we are coming over. I set my phone face down and exhaled a long, shaky breath. They had no idea I had already revoked my access from their accounts. They had no idea I'd already notified the lender about the forged signature. And they had absolutely no idea how deep the trouble went, not just financially, but legally. I walked to my front window and stared down at the quiet parking lot. Frost was beginning to gather along the railings. A stray leaf skittered across the asphalt. Everything looked still, peaceful. Nothing like the storm that was about to hit my parents. My phone vibrated again, but I ignored it. For years, their financial collapses, emotional collapses, and image collapses had always been cushioned by me. I had been the net, the padding, the soft landing. Tonight, they hit the ground. I turned off the living room light, letting the soft glow of the street lamps filter in. I sank onto the edge of my couch and let the quiet settle around me like a blanket. A notification flashed across the phone. Urgent account holder notice, payment failure confirmed. Then almost immediately, second alert, immediate action required. I stared at the screen a long time. Then I whispered the truth out loud to the empty room, to myself, to the 30-year-old woman finally learning the weight of her own boundaries. This time, they'll face the fallout they created. I placed the phone beside me, leaned back, closed my eyes, and waited for the next inevitable call. It would come. It always did. But for the first time, I wasn't afraid. I wasn't responsible. And I wasn't going to save them. The call came through my office line at 9:07 a.m., right as I was finishing a quarterly budget review. No one ever called me on that number unless it was work or unless they were desperate. I stared at the screen, flashing Hudson Residence like an alarm bell. My stomach tightened, but I picked up anyway. Rachel speaking. My father's voice exploded through the receiver, too loud, too frantic. Rachel, what the hell is going on? The mortgage payment didn't go through. The bank called us. They said the account wasn't authorized. What did you do? I closed my eyes. So it had begun. I told you last night, I said calmly. I removed myself from the account. You what? He barked loud enough that a coworker walking past my office glanced in. I turned away, lowering my voice. I'm not managing your finances anymore. You can't just... Rachel, this is serious. They said we're being charged late fees. Those fees are because you spent the money, I replied. Not because I stopped cleaning up after you. A sharp inhale hissed across the line. Then my mother's voice layered over his thin, shaky, already in tears. Honey, please, please listen. We don't know what to do. We tried logging in, but the system isn't letting us access anything. The mortgage payment was supposed to go through this morning. Gerald thinks something is wrong with the portal. There's nothing wrong with the portal, I said. There's something wrong with your spending. My father cut in, voice trembling between rage and fear. Rachel, don't lecture us. Just fix it. No, I said simply. The silence that followed was so sudden, so complete, that I could imagine them staring at each other in disbelief, as if the word wasn't in my vocabulary. My father found his voice first. You're being dramatic over a birthday party that got postponed. This has nothing to do with the birthday, I snapped, finally losing the thread of patience. This is about the forged signature, the loan, the 2 missed payments before this, the thousands spent on Mia's dates, the lies, the manipulation. Another silence, shorter, sharper. My mother whispered, Rachel, forged signature is such a harsh term. It's the legal term. We were desperate, she whispered. And you didn't even tell me, I said. You just assumed I'd fix it. You always assume I'll fix it. We thought you'd understand, my father muttered the same line he'd used before. I do understand, I said. I understand that you don't see me as your daughter. You see me as your safety net. My mother started crying again, the kind of guilty sobs she saved for when she wanted someone else to fix the problem. Rachel, please, please help us. If we lose the house, if I repeated, if you're 1 missed payment away from default review and you've already missed 2 warnings. This was coming whether I stepped in or not. We didn't know, she cried. That's because you didn't look. My father let out a shuddering breath. So this is it. You're abandoning your family over what money? No, I said. Over betrayal. I heard something slam, maybe a fist on a counter, maybe the phone hitting a table. Then my father growled. You can't do this to us. We have plans. We're supposed to have dinner with the Carters again tonight. We need to show them. You need to show them, I repeated. Show them what? That you're financially stable, that you're respectable, that you're honest. A humorless laugh escaped me. You forged your daughter's signature. You're not showing anyone anything except illusion, Rachel, my mother gasped. No, I said. We're not doing this by phone. My father snapped. Then how the hell are we supposed to handle this? You come to my apartment, I said. Tonight. Both of you, without Mia. We can't leave her out, my mother protested. This affects all of us. No, this affects the 3 of us who signed the mortgage. The 3 of us whose names are on the accounts. Mia doesn't belong in this discussion. That's ridiculous, my father began. No, I said. What's ridiculous is you draining your mortgage account to buy my sister designer dresses while pretending you're managing your debts. My father exhaled shakily. We're terrified, Rachel. We could lose the house. You should have thought of that before you gambled with your finances. And you're just going to let this happen, he demanded. I'm going to let you experience the consequences you created. We raised you, he snapped. We clothed you. We fed you. And this is how you repay us. I closed my eyes and breathed in slowly. You didn't raise me to be your bailout plan. You raised me to be invisible, a beat of complete, stunned silence. Then my father said, softer this time. What do you want from us? 7 o'clock, I said. My apartment. No excuses. He hesitated. And what if we don't show up? Then the lender will proceed with the fraud investigation, I said. And the next call you get won't be from the bank. It'll be from the police. My mother made a wounded, terrified sound. My voice didn't shake. 7. Don't be late. I hung up. I sat there for several seconds, breathing through the tremor in my hands. My office suddenly felt too small. I stood and walked to the window. Outside traffic flowed down Franklin Street in steady lines. Everyone else moving through a normal Thursday morning, while my childhood cracked open like an old bone. For the rest of the workday, I should have been focused on budgets and projections, but my mind spun in circles. Legal consequences, missed payments. The phrase forged signature looping over and over. My email chimed, pulling me back to the present. Subject: mortgage payment failure. Immediate action required. There it was, black and white. Official. I clicked it open. Your payment has failed due to insufficient funds. Late fees have been applied. A default review may begin if payment is not resolved within 48 hours. For a moment, my breath froze. Then I felt something else. Relief. Relief because for once this was not my crisis. At 6:58 p.m., my apartment buzzer rang. I pressed the intercom. Yes, my father's voice raw and strained. We're here. I buzzed them in. Their footsteps echoed down the hallway. When I opened the door, they stood there looking smaller than I ever remembered them. My father pale, my mother clutching her purse like a lifeline. Come in, I said. They stepped inside. My father's eyes went straight to the binder of documents on my table, his shoulders stiffening. My mother wiped her eyes with trembling fingers. What now? She whispered. I sat across from them, folding my hands. Now, I said, we talk about the truth. And for the first time in my life, they were the ones bracing for impact. My father sat on the edge of my couch as if he expected it to collapse under him. My mother perched beside him, back stiff, hands clenched so tightly around a tissue that it was already shredded. Neither of them looked at me when I closed the door. They stared at their knees or the floor or the coffee table where my binder of documents waited like a silent judge. I didn't sit right away. I stood across from them and let the quiet settle thick, uncomfortable, unbreakable. For once they would feel the weight instead of me. Sit down, Rachel, my father muttered without looking up, slipping into old habits. I didn't move. No. That single word snapped both their heads up. I walked toward my armchair, sat, crossed one leg over the other, and leaned back. I didn't rush. I didn't soften my expression. I let them see exactly how calm I was, because calmness meant control, and they finally understood I had it. We're here, my father said stiffly. Now talk. I opened the binder, turned it around, and slid the top page toward them. This, I said, is your loan agreement. My mother swallowed hard. My father didn't reach for it. Look at the signature, I continued. My mother's hands shook so violently she didn't dare touch the paper. My father finally lifted it, eyes darting to the bottom line. He stared at the signature for a long time. That's your name, he said weakly. That is my forged name, I corrected. My father looked away, jaw tightening. My mother whispered, It only looks forged if you want it to. The absurdity made my mouth fall open in disbelief. Are you hearing yourselves? We were under pressure, she insisted. We had to act quickly. The lender was strict, the timing was tight, and I asked. And forging my identity seemed easier than asking for my consent. My mother pressed a hand to her forehead. Rachel, sweetie, we thought. I cut her off. Stop calling me sweetie to soften what you did. My father's nostrils flared. This attitude is unnecessary. No, I said. It's overdue. I reached for my laptop, tapped a key, and turned it so they could see the screen. The Timberline lending portal glowed back at them. Red text flagged the account signature discrepancy under investigation. My mother gasped. My father blinked like the words made no sense. You reported it, he whispered. I had to, I said. If I didn't, I would legally be responsible for your debt. My mother shook her head. You didn't give us a chance to explain what I asked. That you used the mortgage account to pay for designer dresses, that you missed 2 payment warnings and ignored them, that you hid a $48,000 loan from me while still expecting me to make your mortgage. Payments? My father stood suddenly, pacing a short line in front of the coffee table. We didn't have a choice, he insisted. The expenses were piling up. Mia needed support. She had to look her best for Ethan's family. They're well connected. Her future. Her future, I echoed. Always her future. My mother flinched. I tapped the spreadsheet on my laptop and scrolled to the notes section highlighted in yellow. Mia's future equals priority. Rachel will understand. I've found this in your files, I said. Let's talk about it. My mother began to cry silently. We didn't mean it that way, she whispered. We just wanted to make sure Mia had opportunities, and you didn't care what it cost me. My father whirled around. This isn't fair. You don't know what we've been dealing with. You didn't give me a chance to know, I said. You locked me out emotionally, but dumped every financial burden on me. You trusted me enough to handle your mortgage, but not enough to tell me you were sinking. And you trusted me enough to use my identity, but not enough to ask for my permission. My father's breathing grew shallow. My mother wiped her eyes with trembling fingers. Rachel, she whispered, we are sorry. We made mistakes. Mistakes are forgetting a bill, I said. Mistakes are misplacing a receipt. Forging someone's name is not a mistake. Before either of them could speak, there was a knock on my apartment door. Sharp, angry, familiar. My father went pale. That better not be. It is I said. The knock came again louder. Rachel, open the door, Mia. My father groaned into his hands. My mother pressed her fingers to her lips. I walked to the door without looking at either of them. Mia stood there, eyes wild, mascara smudged, breath quick like she'd run up the stairs. What did you do? She demanded the instant she saw me. Ethan's parents think we're broke. They canceled dinner. They said they need time to reassess things. This is your fault. I raised an eyebrow. My fault. Yes, she yelled. They said Dad's card declined last night. They said something about accounts being unstable. Why didn't you fix it? Why are you doing this? Her voice cracked, not with anger this time, but with fear. I stepped aside. Come in. She stormed past me, stopping short when she saw our parents hunched on the couch. Oh my God, Mia whispered, pointing at the documents. Is that real? Was there actually a loan? Are we? Her voice trembled. Are we in trouble? My father sank his face further into his hands. My mother covered her mouth and began crying again. I walked to my laptop, clicked to the mortgage portal, and turned the screen toward Mia. Read the alert, I said. She hesitated before looking. Upcoming default. Review immediate action required, account past due. Her knees buckled slightly, and she steadied herself on the arm of my couch. No, she whispered. You told me everything was fine. My mother let out a sob. We didn't want you to worry, sweetheart. Stop. Calling us sweetheart. Mia snapped, tears burning down her cheeks. You lied to me. You lied to both of us. You made me think everything was perfect while you were drowning, and you made Rachel fix everything alone. My mother froze. My father finally lifted his head. His face was blotchy, his eyes glassy with shame. We didn't know what else to do, he murmured. That's because you never learned, I said. You've coasted on appearance and denial for so long that you don't know how to handle consequences. My father swallowed hard. What do you want us to do? There it was. Finally, the question they should have asked years ago. I closed the binder, sat back, and looked at the three of them, my broken, frightened, unraveling family. We fix this, I said slowly. But not the old way. My mother sniffled. Then, how you listen, I said. You face the truth. You stop pretending. You stop lying. And you accept what you did to me. Mia wiped her face. Rachel, what did they do with your name? They forged it, I said. On a $48,000 loan. Mia gasped, covering her mouth. That's Mom, Dad, that's a crime. You could go to jail. My father didn't argue. My mother didn't deny. For the first time in my life, they were silent, and not because they wanted me to be quiet, but because they were finally forced to hear me. I took a steady breath. Now we talk about what comes next. And three heads lifted toward me, not with dismissal, not with annoyance, but with something new. Fear. And for the first time, respect. My living room felt smaller than it ever had, crowded, overheated, stuffed with truths that had been boxed away for years. My father sat rigidly on one end of the couch. My mother hunched beside him, both hands wringing the hem of her blouse. Mia stood near the window as if unsure whether to run or collapse. And in the middle of them, on the coffee table, lay the loan documents, the bank warnings, and the spreadsheet that had shattered everything. For once, every pair of eyes in the room was fixed on me. I pulled my laptop closer and clicked open the mortgage portal again. The red banners flashed across the screen like warning flares. "Let's continue," I said. My father cleared his throat. "Rachel, please. We know things are bad, but we didn't understand how bad." "You didn't want to understand," I replied. "Understanding would have forced you to stop." My mother flinched at that. "We were trying to manage things, you weren't managing anything," I said. "You were pretending." Mia rubbed her arms as though she were suddenly cold. I don't get it. How could you hide all of this?" "From me. From Rachel." Her voice cracked on the last word. My mother reached toward her daughter, but Mia stepped back. "No, I want the truth first." My father exhaled slowly like he'd been punched. "We thought we could fix everything before you two found out." "Fix it by forging my name?" I asked. My father looked down. Shame rolled off him in waves. "I trusted you," I said, "even when you didn't trust me back." Mia's voice shook. "Wait, what loan? How long has this been happening?" I clicked the loan file open again and spun the screen toward her. 6 weeks. She bent over the laptop, eyes widening as she scanned the numbers. 48,000? Her voice trembled. And that's your name." "My forged name," I corrected. Mia slapped her hand over her mouth. Her voice broke into a jagged whisper. "Mom, Dad, how could you do that to her?" My mother began to cry again. "We were falling behind. We needed help. Rachel always helps." "Not like this," Mia cried, stepping back as if the whole room was contaminated. "You can't just steal her identity, that's illegal." "We know that now," my father snapped defensively. "You knew it then," I replied. Silence dropped like a stone between us. I took a breath. "Let's go through everything." I opened the spreadsheet titled Hudson Priorities. The yellow highlighted notes glared back at them. Mia's wardrobe priority, dining out with Ethan, priority, spa, package, priority, weekend, getaway, priority, mortgage, payment, pending, electric bill, pending, Rachel will understand. My father stared at the words as if seeing them for the first time. My mother turned away, face twisted in shame. Mia looked devastated. You spent mortgage money on me." My mother wrung her hands harder. "Sweetheart, we wanted you to have opportunities. We didn't want you to feel less than Ethan's family. We didn't want him to think what Mia demanded, that I'm poor, that I'm not enough. This is insane." My father rose and paced the living room. "We were trying to help your future. Don't you understand Carson Carter has connections? If Mia marries into that family," Mia's face went blank with shock. "My future, you told me all those dinners and clothes were because I deserved nice things, not because you were trying to sell me to someone." "No one was selling you," my father protested. "Really," Mia's voice rose, "because this looks like you were grooming me to look wealthy enough to marry into money." My mother collapsed into tears again. I stepped forward, keeping my voice even. "This was never about Mia. It was about your fear, your debt, your choices." My father's anger deflated, replaced by something more fragile. "We didn't want to lose the house." "You were already losing it," I said. "You hid the truth from me, from Mia, from yourselves. But hiding doesn't stop consequences." My father stopped pacing and braced a hand on the back of the couch. "What happens now?" I closed the spreadsheet and pulled out a printed set of transaction logs. "We go over the spending." I flipped to a page marked in red. $520 for flowers, $700 for dinner, $800 for wine and appetizers last night, over $2,000 on Mia's clothes. Meanwhile, I pointed to another line. "Your electric bill went unpaid for 2 months." My mother whispered, "We didn't realize." "You didn't want to realize," I corrected. Mia sank into the chair beside the window. "Why didn't you tell me any of this? Why keep me in the dark?" my father answered before my mother could. Because you're not strong enough to handle this. The room went still. Mia stared at him like he'd slapped her. Not strong enough, it would have stressed you, he mumbled. Something in Mia broke, but not in the fragile way I was used to. Her expression hardened pain, sharpening into clarity. I'm not a porcelain doll, she said. I can handle the truth. What I can't handle is being lied to. My mother tried again. Mia's voice cracked like a whip. This whole family has been built on lies. You've treated Rachel like a safety net and me like a project. My father sank onto the couch. We thought, stop saying that, she snapped. You thought wrong. For several seconds no one spoke. Then I moved quietly back to the coffee table and shut my laptop. We're done reviewing the past, I said. Now we deal with the present. My father lifted his head wearily. What does that mean? It means, I said, you accept what you've done, fully, without excuses, without pretending, and then we decide how to move forward. My mother reached for my hand. Rachel, do you hate us? The question was so small it didn't match the damage, but it made my throat tighten. No, I said honestly, but I don't trust you. My father swallowed. How do we fix that? I looked. At all three of them, Mia trembling but awake in a way she'd never been. My mother frightened and ashamed, my father stripped of all his bluster. You start by telling me the whole truth, I said. Every debt, every missed payment, every lie you told yourselves. My father nodded slowly. Okay? And then he asked? And then I said you do exactly what I tell you. Mia looked up, her voice steadier than before. I'll help, she said. Whatever we have to do, I'll do it. This is our mess. My mother let out a sob of relief. My father closed his eyes and whispered, We'll follow your lead. I stood and walked to the window, pulling the curtain aside. Outside, the street was dark, dotted with porch lights and the distant glow of cars moving toward their destinations. Inside, my broken family sat waiting for the next steps. I turned back toward them and said, Tomorrow the lender will call. My father stiffened. And we will finally face this, I said, whether they were ready or not. By the time the sun rose the next morning, I had already been awake for hours. I lay in bed staring at the ceiling, listening to the quiet hum of my apartment, replaying every word from the night before. My parents sitting on my couch as if the cushions were made of glass. Mia shaking, angry, terrified. The loan documents spread across my coffee table like evidence at a crime scene. Today the lender would call. Today everything would move from confrontation to consequence. I finally sat up, dragged myself into the kitchen and made coffee. My hands shook as I poured it, not from fear, but from the adrenaline of knowing the next chapter was coming, whether we wanted it or not. I checked my email, nothing yet from Timberline Lending. I checked my phone, several missed calls from my parents, none from Mia. I didn't return them. At 9:14 a.m., my phone finally rang. Unknown number, but not the scam type, not the local prefix either. A corporate line, I answered. This is Rachel Hudson. Good morning, Miss Hudson, a woman said. This is Danielle Moretti, with Timberline Premier Lending. I'm following up on the fraud report you submitted last night. It started. I inhaled. Yes, I'm available. I just need to confirm a few details, she said. Are you in a place where you can speak privately? Yes. First, can you confirm that the signature on the loan document is not yours? It's not. Did you authorize anyone to sign on your behalf? No. Did you have any knowledge of the loan prior to yesterday? None. Her tone softened barely, but enough to feel human. Miss Hudson, I want to be very clear. Forging a signature on a loan is a serious offense. It's classified as identity theft and carries both civil and criminal penalties. I understand. We will need to contact the primary borrowers. We'll inform them that the loan is being frozen pending investigation. My stomach tightened. What does that mean for them? It means the money previously disbursed is now locked. No withdrawals, no spending, no restructuring. And if they can't repay what they already used, there will be legal action. I closed my eyes. The words hit harder than I expected. The lender continued. We will also need a written signed statement from you verifying your lack of involvement. You sent a draft in your email last night and it was thorough. Thank you. Once we receive your signed copy, we will proceed. I nodded, even though she couldn't see me. I'll send it within the hour. Thank you, Miss Hudson. If you have any questions or if the borrowers contact you, please refer them to our fraud department. After today, communication must go through us. The air in my lungs felt heavy. Understood. The call ended. I put down my phone and stared at the steam rising from my coffee. Everything felt too quiet, too still, like the moment before thunder hits. At 1:001 a.m., my parents called again, this time from my mother's phone. I answered. Rachel, my mother's voice was trembling. The lender called us. Of course they had. My father's voice sounded faintly in the background, angry, panicked, defeated. Ask her, he snapped. Ask her what she told them. My mother swallowed audibly. They said the loan has been frozen. They said there's an investigation. They asked if we forged your signature. And what did you say? I asked. We panicked, she whispered. We didn't know what to say. They asked us to come into their office today. Then go, I said. Rachel, she cried. They said criminal charges are possible. Yes. And they said you gave them a statement. Yes. A soft, broken sound escaped her. Honey, you're turning us in. No, I said sharply. You turned yourselves in the moment you used my name without permission. My father took the phone. Rachel, he said, voice grating, you don't know what you've done. They want us to bring identification, financial records. They're asking us to sit with someone from the fraud team. This could ruin us. It could, I agreed. A stunned silence fell on their end. My father's voice dropped, stripped of bluster. Did you really mean it last night? Will you help us? I will help you tell the truth, I said. I will not help you hide from it. Rachel, if you lie to the lender, I continued. If you blame me, if you deny what you did, I walk away. Forever. A beat. 2 beats. 3. Then my mother whispered, we'll tell the truth. I exhaled slowly. Good. We want you to come with us, she added in a small voice. Not to fix anything. Just to be there. Part of me wanted to say no. Part of me wanted to protect myself. But another part, the part that had spent 30 years trying to be chosen, understood their fear too clearly. I'll meet you at Timberline at noon, I said. I ended the call before they could say more. By the time I pulled into the lender's parking lot, my parents were already standing on the sidewalk. They looked exhausted. My father's eyes were red, my mother's mascara smudged. When I stepped out of my car, they walked toward me like 2 people approaching a cliff. Inside the fraud investigator, a woman named Erica led us to a small conference room. She looked younger than my parents, but older than me. Serious, professional, efficient. Thank you for coming, she began. We'll go through this step by step. She turned to me first. Miss Hudson, thank you for your cooperation. You may sit, but you will not be asked any questions today. She turned to my parents. Mr. and Mrs. Hudson, the purpose of this meeting is to give you an opportunity to explain how this signature came to be on a legally binding loan document. My father stared at his hands. My mother's lip quivered. Let's begin, Erica said. Did either of you sign this document on behalf of your daughter? My father inhaled shakily. Yes. And did you have her permission? He hesitated just long enough to make my heart stop. No, he finally whispered. We didn't. My mother wiped her eyes. We were behind on everything. We were scared. We thought Rachel would help us if she knew. But you didn't ask her, Erica said calmly. My mother shook her head. No. Why, my father's voice broke. Because we were ashamed. Erica nodded, slowly typing notes. Acknowledging that is important. My mother sobbed softly. My father's shoulders shook. For the first time in my life, I watched them face consequences without reaching for me, without asking me to absorb the blame. It was heartbreaking and necessary. After the meeting, we walked out into the cold air. My mother clung to her coat, shivering. My father looked hollow. They turned to me, both of them unsure, afraid, changed. "Rachel," my mother whispered, "we're sorry, truly sorry." My father nodded, tears in his eyes. "We don't deserve your help, but thank you for standing with us in there." I crossed my arms. "This isn't forgiveness, not yet, and it doesn't erase what happened." "We know," my father said quietly. "But it's a start," my mother added. I nodded once. But inside something shifted. Not relief, not victory. Something like gravity redistributing itself. For the first time in my life, my parents were learning how to stand up on their own. And I was learning what it felt like not to carry them. My parents didn't say much as we parted ways in the Timberline Lending parking lot. My mother hugged her coat around herself like the cold might swallow her whole. My father stood beside her, hands shoved into his pockets, the weight of the fraud investigation hanging visibly across his shoulders. They looked smaller than I'd ever seen them, like the truth had stripped away the armor they'd worn for years. But the consequences were only beginning. That afternoon, I forwarded the last of the documents the lender requested. Screenshots, email threads, identity verification scans. Everything meticulously organized in a folder titled Hudson Fraud Case. The click of every upload felt final, like sealing the lid on a box that could never be reopened. Just after 4 p.m., my phone buzzed with a text from a number I hadn't seen in days. "Mia, can we talk?" I stared at the message, hesitating. I wasn't